All right, good Thursday morning, YouTube. We're back out here on the Duramax. Obviously the primer is good and set up, so we're gonna block sand this down. Over there, if it's blocked out and we're a little wonky here and there, when I get to the rockers, if I gotta sling a little mud here and there and reprime these, that's cool. It's to be expected when I did it in the fashion I did, and knowing that I had other other pieces that I could do that. Obviously, I would have spent a little more time blocking them and getting them a little closer and filling pinholes before I primed, had I known I was just painting the bed. Dog's barking at something. Anyway, yeah, so we'll get this block sanded out and jump on to the rockers. We're gonna sand this for a minute. We're gonna chase after some fuel for the shop. Hopefully one of the last few times we're doing that. It's still borderline running the heat, especially when I'm painting. So yeah, we're gonna get that block down, run for some fuel, maybe grab a coffee, and get after these rockers. All right, bed sides are blocked down. We found a little wavy, but that's all right. It's blocked down and taken care of, so we know we can reprime that. We got these slip-on rockers sitting in here. I'm going to just do a little fitting and decide where I'm going to seam them. Sometimes I just cut right across the whole length and weld across this top seam. Sometimes I let it wrap into the jam. I don't know, I do different things for different trucks, and sometimes the panels come to me differently. So I'm gonna just take a minute and do a little clamping and looking and thinking and decide on a plan of attack. All right, so these slip-on deals fit like crap. They're intended to slip on and rivet and run or whatever. I can't ever imagine doing that. I always wind up modifying them in some way because they fit like crap. What I've decided I'm going to do on this truck here with this particular patch is I'm going to buzz these off, and I'm going to attach the bottom. I'm going to glue and screw the bottom because it's too crusty to weld to, but solid enough to glue and screw to, if that makes sense. And then this top seam here, once I've attached the bottom, I'll fold this down into here and I'll go along and weld. Tack right down through there, front and back, all along there, same thing. I'll have tacks an inch or so apart. And then I'll fiberglass that in. I'll seam seal the back side, of the bottom here, and that'll be that. It'll be on there. It'll do what it's supposed to do, and then I'll jump over to the other side. Like I said, this isn't the correct way to replace the this is the correct way to do these with slip-on panels quickly and affordably. The correct way to replace these is obviously full rockers and drill out the spot welds and replace the rocker. But this is a patch, and that's how we're going to do it. Okay, I skipped some steps. I threw the camera on the charger for a minute, but all I did in the meantime was exactly what I said I was going to do. I buzzed this edge off. I ground that top surface where I'm going to be able to weld. And then I glued the bottom and I have it clamped, and I'm going to start putting the screws to it. Now, pro hackery tip 101 right here. I use these little guys here, these self-tappers with a hex head. Now, the reason I use those is I can run them in and then I grind them down to just that little flat washery spot after they're in there and after my glue's set. And then I can give a little skim of seam sealer over it, and then by the time they're bed lined, they more or less disappear, or they look like a spot weld. So that's my tip of the day. The glue more or less would hold them in place. The screws are just added bonus. And a lot of times I can place the screws inboard of the outer lip of the inner rocker if there's enough good material there and you don't see the screw on the underside on the back. So I think I'm going to be able to do that on this one here. We'll just see here in just a minute when I get down there and throwing some screws in. And there you have it. We got our screws in place. Every foot or so. It's glued up there pretty heavy. All the screws we put in, can you see in there? All those screws up in here are just strictly to hold it in place until we weld. Anything, once we'll take all these screws out and just weld the hole shut. So, now we got a bit of welding to do. Start stitching along in here. Like I said, we'll pull these screws up that I threw in here, just weld the hole shut. But all in all, a little bit of welding and that rocker is on there. We'll slob some fiberglass over the edges and grind it all down kind of nice and pretty like, and skim a little Bondo over it, sand it up, and it'll be ready for the color match bed liner. All right. Have the other side prepped up, glued up, ready to ding on there. And we'll have both rockers semi attached. And it's time for welding and fiberglassing and sanding and Bondo and all that fun stuff. This side was a little farther gone. We still had plenty to hook to along the top. It's a little tender back here, but I still have plenty to weld to. The bottom of the cab corner is a little iffy, so when I get to that spot, I'll probably make a couple little sliver patches to hook the cab corner to the rocker. That'll tie that in nice, and we'll be good to go. Okay. We got the driver's side welded in. Got that corner. We had to throw a few patches from the rocker to the cab corner, so we had to weld in a couple little slivers in there. Got that all tacked along in there. We're gonna finish fiberglassing that one in, and we'll jump over to this side here, because this is, I believe, where you've already seen and we've left off. We are ready to weld on this side. So we'll drag the welder over here. I meant to set it up so you guys could see that process on the other side and didn't. So I will set it up and you can watch this side. Nothing fun and exciting, just a bunch of tack welding. But get that done. This side here, I think the cab corner is enough there that I can tack that piece of rocker to it and call it good. I don't think I have to make any extra pieces like on the other side. So this side should be a little more straightforward. All right, so I said I was coming over here to weld this side, but I 180'd this all down now that I've blocked it, filled the pinholes, and I want to get it primed because I want to have the primer set up overnight. all that primer down here, I can rattle can prime this. It's getting bed lined, it's not a huge deal. This, I want the nice high build primer on there, and I want to cure it overnight. So, nearing the end of my work day, I want to get this ready for primer. So, in true, what's that hip hop song, Jump Around, House of Pain, maybe? I don't know. It's an old hip hop song, Jump Around. But in true that song fashion, I jumped around, and I am working over here now. This is like ADD garage. I started over here, was gonna go back over there, but wound up here. But it all needs to get done. Just explained why I did it in this order now. So I'll let that sit up. I'll get the welder dragged to the other side, weld, sand, clean, prime, call it a day. After I fiberglass the rockers. If I get a skim of fiberglass on everything and this reprimed for today, I'll be happy. All right, that's where we're leaving this old girl for this afternoon. We got the rockers welded on. We fiberglassed our corners here, both sides. The bed, after I blocked it, I reprimed. So that'll be ready for a final sand and paint. The only thing left on the rockers, I wanted the glue set good on the bottom before I messed around grinding the screw heads like I talked about. So I will grind those heads in the morning, finish up a little bit of fiberglass work, and those will be bed liner ready. And the bed is, well, almost paint ready. So this one will be knocked out tomorrow and all will be good. Have a good night, YouTube.